All right, today we're going to pull on this hidden thread. It's one that runs from our most ancient stories, right through the very structure of our society, and plugs directly into the most advanced machines we have ever built. So let's see where that thread leads us.
I know, it sounds like the setup for a really strange joke, doesn't it? But believe me, the answer connects a galaxy far, far away, the gritty streets of Victorian London, and the code that is literally shaping our future. You gotta stay with me on this one because the link between them, it reveals something absolutely fundamental about us.
So that connection, it all lies in a set of what you could call ancient blueprints. These are these core patterns that we humans have used for thousands of years to make sense of the world, to tell stories, and really, to define who we are.
And the main idea here is the archetype. Now, this concept comes from the psychologist Carl Jung, and an archetype is basically a universal pattern. Jung had this theory about a collective unconscious, like a shared memory bank for all of humanity. It's the reason myths and stories from totally different cultures can feel so weirdly familiar to us.
And you know what? This brings us to the most famous archetype of all, the hero's journey. You've seen this a million times. The mythologist Joseph Campbell was the one who laid out these steps after studying myths from all over the planet. A hero gets a call to adventure, they find a mentor, think Obi-Wan Kenobi, they go through some huge trial, and they come back with something that helps save their community. Campbell's work was a massive influence on George Lucas, and this blueprint, it is the very DNA of Star Wars.
But here's the thing, these blueprints, they don't just stay in our stories. They actually shape our reality. We use really similar patterns or labels to define roles in our own societies. And while sometimes those labels become traps.
This leads us straight to a really powerful idea from sociology called labeling theory. The basic idea is that deviance isn't so much about what a person does, but about how society reacts to what they do. So when we slap a label on someone, like criminal for example, we can actually push them further and further into that very role.
A sociologist named Edwin Lemert made a really important distinction here. So primary deviance is just the initial act. Say a kid shoplifts something once. They don't think of themselves as a thief. But if the system and everyone around them reacts harshly, labeling them and treating them like one, they risk falling into secondary deviance. And that's the scary part. That's the moment the label becomes their identity. It's who they believe they are.
And if you want the perfect example of this, we just have to turn to Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist and that unforgettable character, the Artful Dodger. I mean, he's just a kid, but he's already been molded into the perfect little criminal.
The reason the Artful Dodger story is so tragic is because it is labeling theory in action. He's an orphan, right? Taken in and totally manipulated by Fagin. He gets amazing at his job and completely leans into the identity of thief. His whole sense of self is built around it. So when he finally gets caught, the system doesn't see a manipulated child, it just sees a criminal. That label blocks off every other path and basically seals his fate.
Okay, so that brings us to today. We've seen how these patterns work in our stories and in our societies, but now we are actively teaching these exact same patterns, our archetypes and our labels, to our most powerful new creations.
So this is the central question for us today. We're taking all of our history, all of our stories, all of our societal biases, the good, the bad, all of it, and we're feeding it into artificial intelligence. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, the data is already coming in. This benchmark of leading AI models shows a pretty significant tendency toward biased answers. So when they were asked open-ended questions where the right answer should be something like cannot be determined, models like Grok and GPT-4 showed bias more than half the time. They were just making assumptions based on things like gender, race, or socioeconomic status. So what exactly is AI bias? Basically, it's when an AI system produces prejudiced results. And it happens because the AI learns from us. Is trained on these gigantic amounts of text and images from the internet, data that contains all of our collective, historical, and often totally unconscious biases. The machine just learns the patterns it's shown.
And hey, this isn't just theoretical stuff. Look at these real-world examples. Amazon's recruiting AI learned from a decade of hiring data that most successful people were men. So it taught itself to ding resumes with words like women's chess club. A major healthcare algorithm used spending as a proxy for health needs, which meant it systematically disadvantaged Black patients. These are modern digital versions of the exact same labeling that trapped the Artful Dodger. They're systems that block opportunity based on a biased pattern.
But what if this story has a twist?
What if the same technology that perfectly mirrors our flaws could also be used to help us spot them and maybe even challenge them? Could AI actually help us break these ancient patterns?
You know, one really fascinating place this is happening is the corporate boardroom. For forever, boards have had to rely almost completely on information that was packaged and prepared by the management team they're supposed to be watching over. But now, AI has the potential to totally shatter that dynamic by giving boards a direct, unfiltered line to the data.
The potential here is just enormous. This isn't just some new tool. It's a fundamental change in the power structure. Imagine an AI acting as an independent research partner for board directors, benchmarking how the company is doing against its competitors, pressure testing strategies with predictive models, all while giving objective, data-driven insights that go way beyond the typical board presentation.
Of course, it's not all sunshine and roses. This comes with some serious risks. Boards could start to overstep their role. AI models can hallucinate and just make stuff up. Data security is obviously a huge deal, and every question you ask creates a written record that could be used against the company down the road. So yeah, you have to be really, really thoughtful about this.
And make no mistake, this is already happening. A recent PwC survey found that 35% of corporate directors say their boards are already using AI in their oversight roles, for everything from staying up to date on trends to pressure testing company strategy.
And that is why having a proactive plan is absolutely essential. Companies need to be talking about AI use openly, training their directors, making sure it's all happening in a secure environment, and, this is the big one, always maintaining human oversight. AI is a tool to make our judgment better, not to replace it.
So let's bring it all home. We started with the archetypes in our myths, right? The patterns that give our stories meaning. Then we saw how those same patterns turn into labels in our society, shaping identities and, really, destinies.
And today, we are literally embedding those very patterns into our technology. AI has become this powerful, high-definition mirror, and it's reflecting back at us both the heroic journeys we love and the tragic labels we've created. This quote from the sociologist Howard Becker, it just says it all. A label is only powerful once it's been successfully applied. And right now, we are in the middle of deciding which labels, which patterns we are going to successfully apply to our machines. So I'll just leave you with this one question. We have inherited the hero's journey, and we have inherited the tragic story of the Artful Dodger. Both are ancient patterns that we made up. As we design our future, the choice of which patterns to make louder and which ones to break, that choice is now ours to code.